Hi everybody, this is Lee, and in a previous video I discussed the importance of focusing on wars abroad and then wars at home, and that how we have gatherings and coalitions and conventions and conferences and summits of people meeting to discuss issues considered left and progressive. But there are some issues that are not necessarily left, that they actually reach across from left to right, the entire political spectrum. That's how common sense that they are. They're actually populist and receive wide support amongst the population in North America. And anti-war activism is something that unites the citizenry, much as the mainstream media tries to downplay that there is left and right resistance towards military expansionism, the wars abroad. And then there's also left and right consensus against military expansion domestically, the wars at home. And to that end, there is a conference that took place also this past weekend. At the same time, there was an anti-war conference. There was also a conference on the war at home, the war on drugs. Specifically, let me get to this page. It was the fourth annual Cannabis World Congress and Business Exposition. So not necessarily coming at this from protest point of view, but actually promoting it as a business point of view. Basically, it's the normalizing of cannabis in the business world. And so I mentioned Jesse Ventura and the fact that he has spoken out against frivolous military actions. And interestingly enough, he is a military veteran himself, underwater demolition with the Navy SEALs, and that he served in Vietnam. And that some people perceive military veterans as gun crazy, gun happy, with the thrill of it. But people who have seen war know the cost of war. And Jesse Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota, knows the cost of war, as does Tulsi Gabbard herself, a military veteran. And so that's what I mean when there's movement across the political spectrum of people who want a common sense policy on wars abroad and wars at home. And Tulsi Gabbard has also supported the legalization of cannabis. Jesse Ventura is a very controversial figure. He's found himself smeared and then also blacklisted in the entertainment and news industry for some of his stances, his statements, and his points of view on wars abroad and wars at home. But he was the keynote speaker at this cannabis conference. And so I found that interesting. So he was definitely participating in public discussion. And I believe he's going to have a television show. Once again, I'll try to find a link so people can follow up and see what Jesse Ventura is up to. He's been writing a lot of books. He's been writing forwards and promoting his ideas whenever possible. And that he has a show coming up. So I'll post a link to an interview he did recently. I'll post a link to this cannabis conference, and then maybe some of his books too. And I'm gonna see if I can define what the conference is about. Let's see, they had a lot of seminars. I'll go through the programming. It focused on cultivation, processing, extraction, sales, ancillary business, advocacy legislation, and special features. And so I'll just kind of name off a few of the workshops: operating procedures and facility design, pesticides, why cannabis bills fail, decarbonization, hold the weed industrial hemp processing, investment insights for marijuana investors. Man versus machine, who trims best? Licensing. Finding rewards in a risky environment. Physical security panel. Expansion of e-commerce and e-payment solutions for the cannabis industry. And then Jesse Ventura was the keynote speaker. New federalism. Okay. Women in cannabis. So just about everything you can possibly want to know about the cannabis industry from a business point of view took place, and hopefully someone live streamed some of those workshops. I'll see if I can locate some. Otherwise, you can come directly to this conference link and see what happened, what people were talking about. And so I wanted to make sure to mention this conference, that there was a direct response to attacks on the cannabis industry. We have Jeff Sessions at the federal level, who is making noises and statements and indications of his intentions to send federal officers into certain states in pursuit of medical cannabis possibly being funneled to states that have not legalized. And so that's what happens when you have this type of threat at the federal level. The response is a meeting, a gathering, education, networking, coalition building types of things that can bring people together to organize and to push back on the lies that are actually being told in an effort to change the narrative. This is a pushback on a narrative trying to be formed by Jeff Sessions, but failing. That Jeff Sessions, the statements that he's making are outside the Overton window. People see through that now. What he's saying about marijuana being the gateway drug and causing violence and causing mayhem, this is outside the Overton window. He's extreme. And we can see with this effort to normalize the industrial hemp and cannabis industry, medical cannabis industry, that it's normalizing across the majority of the population. And so Jeff Sessions is being viewed as the odd, crazy, extremist one. This article is Jeff Sessions eyes a crackdown on medical marijuana, but federal policy remains unclear. And so Donald Trump actually stated while he was running for office that the states should decide, and at least 29 states did decide to legalize medical cannabis. And so Donald Trump ran on a hands-off point of view of maybe not legalizing at the federal level, but giving states the option to make that decision. And then he gets into office and something different happens, so he lied to people. He lied to people. He lied to his voters and his supporters on what his administration intended for cannabis, because Jeff Sessions is apparently wanting greater freedom to prosecute medical marijuana businesses and patients in states where the drug is legal medicine. Federal authorities allege that so-called dangerous drug traffickers and international criminal organizations cultivate medical marijuana under those medical marijuana laws and then sell it in states where the drug is still illegal. So they're looking for ways to still crack down in states where medical marijuana has been legalized. And this is opposite of what Donald Trump said that he intended during his campaign, and how he achieved his support base by lying to people. So anyway, I'll post a link to this article of what Jeff Sessions thinks he's going to do, even going so far as to request federal funds from Congress to be able to fund his agents to go into the states that have legalized medical cannabis. Because according to him, these medical growers who are legal are actually using their legal operations to funnel um, cannabis to states where it's not legal. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so, thankfully, we have people pushing back, speaking out, and we'll have to see where this ends. But there needs to be a pushback in order to stop this war at home, this militarization of federal stormtroopers coming into states and trampling on medical cannabis growers, criminalizing people who need that cannabis to stop their epileptic seizures, to stop pain and nausea associated with chronic diseases. This is who Jeff Sessions wants to target. He is outside the Overton window, and Donald Trump lied to us. But basically, you can see the connection of how to fight back against an attempt to change a narrative, and how apparently that's going to fail because people are educating themselves, and medical cannabis is normalizing. People are participating, educating, networking, cultivating, and medicating. And so we'll have to say good luck, not to Jeff Sessions, but to the citizens in the states, that hopefully the states will protect their citizens against this ridiculous attempt at Jeff Sessions trying to remain, relevant, and, get funding for something that should not be funded. So good luck.